Good evening, everyone. I, Charmi Shah, on behalf of Professional Skill Enrichment Committee ICER, welcome you all participants to today's webcast, Communication and Relationship Skills for CAs. I welcome to today's resource person, CA Gaurav Goyal sir, and all others present here. CA Gaurav Goyal sir is accomplished audit and risk management professional with more than a decade of experience in internal audit, internal controls, and compliance function across the consulting, telecom, and medtech industry. He has worked with leading organizations like KPMG, Nokia, and Stripe, where he has led global audit engagement and managed multi-regional teams, strengthening governance, process efficiency, and control framework. He's also author of Amazon bestseller Digging the Well, Your Path to Success in Internal Audit. It's a practical guide widely appreciated by finance and audit professionals for its real-world insights and structural approach. He's passionate about developing the next generation of auditors and enabling professionals to build meaningful and value-driven models. With this brief introduction, I welcome you, sir, and the floor is all open for your deliberation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for this introduction, and really glad to be part of this webcast. I'll share my screen, and please just let me know once the screen is visible. Can you see the screen? Okay,
Yes,
perfect. Thank you. So, welcome everyone to today's podcast or webcast on communication and relationship skills for chartered accountants. You might have seen very frequently this topic of communication skills. But why relationship skills is there? That might be a bit intriguing for all of you, why we are talking about this, and why you see on screen that trust building is mentioned. So why does it matter? We'll talk about this and a lot more in today's session. To start with, so today's agenda is going to be introduction, which we've already covered, then what is first impression, why it matters, and your energy in a professional setting, trust building and soft skills in CA practice, why they matter, how they matter, communication challenges and internal barriers for CA, high stake conversations and conflict escalation, how to handle those situations. Then we'll tie back whatever we learn with a framework called magnet, so that you can become a trust magnet, and how different sort of behaviors are there and how to navigate certain situations. Then we'll talk about connection, relationship, understanding, and leadership. So the attributes which are there in the acronym magnet, so those are split into these four behavioral skills, and then we'll be talking about real life application and behavior mapping. So that is broadly how it is going to look like, but there will be a lot of examples, real life stories, and how personally I used different techniques and overcame certain things. So that we will also be covering in today's session. So again, a brief on my introduction. As ma'am already mentioned, I am a chartered accountant and I have also done certified internal auditor certification. I have around a decade of experience in governance, risk, and compliance across different industries. And this is the book that I have written on internal audit. It was launched this year on CA Day. So it talks about not just how to do internal audit, but mindset, frameworks, and a lot of personal stories as well, just to tie everything together. So it's more like a read rather than a manual or some sort of textbook. So it is something that you can read as a self-help book. If you want to pursue internal audit, would recommend that you can have a look at it. Okay. First impressions and energy in professional settings. You might have noticed that there are certain people when you meet them, right? When you enter a room, there's a specific energy to a room. You know whether you are comfortable in that room or not. When you meet people, you can sense whether they are friendly with you, whether they are cold with you, how comfortable you are around them. And the opposite is also same. When people see you, they talk with you, they interact with you, they also get your vibe, we call it these days, your energy, they sense it, and accordingly they also respond and behave. Then trust formed before words. So before you speak anything, before you talk anything, a certain level of trust is established basis your non-verbal or physical demeanor and what your body is talking rather than your words. And the first impression and presence. So they are heavily influenced by a person's presence and demeanor. And when we talk about first impressions, it's not just about how a person is dressed, their physical appearance. It includes a lot more, and typically the kind of energy a person is bringing inside a room. So we'll talk about the how important is it to carry a smile, and a beaming smile is the most infectious thing you can have, and it will really help you in making friends really quickly. So it makes people really comfortable around you, and it makes you approachable. So we'll talk about this and a lot more. But it is very important to understand what is happening in a room and what are the energy dynamics. Emotional state and nonverbal cues. So people naturally sense others' emotional state through subtle cues and postures and tone. They understand whether the other one, we also transfer energy, right? We'll come to the specifics of communication and relationship, but we are firstly trying to understand that beyond what we say and generally what we think matters the most, there are a lot many other things which we do not focus upon, but they equally matter, or rather matter more than what we are saying. So emotional awareness, your posture, your tone, how whether the other person is able to feel warmth in your interaction, um, safety versus defensiveness, whether the other person feels threatened in your presence or do they feel safe, do they want to share more about themselves, do they feel heard when they are speaking with you. So communication, as much as it is about speaking, it is even more important that how good a listener we are. So it is a two-way street, and um the better listening skills we demonstrate ha have a equal, rather even bigger impact on how the other person perceives us. And we'll also discuss certain ways how you can make the other person feel heard. Now, on this, before moving on, I'll share a story. So, in my previous organization, we had a manager. We're blessed to have such kind of a manager. Um, so, he had multiple reportees from both India as well as China. And when somebody shared their inputs, let's say 8 out of 10 people in the room felt that whatever the person who has given input is, to be crude, you can say it is nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. So the only two people who are left is the manager and the person who has said that. Now, the good thing about him was that he would try and understand where the other person is coming from. Then he would paraphrase that if I have understood correctly, are you saying this or do you want to add something to what you have said? Then, after getting clarification, he will add a little bit of his thoughts, saying that maybe I think, yes, you are also going in the right direction, and then add a few points from his side. And then the person who has started the conversation, firstly, he feels validated. So, the worst thing we can do with a person is invalidating their comments, their inputs. So, the person felt heard, he felt validated, And then he felt that his opinions matter. And as a matter of fact, when you actually give a good ear to what the other person is saying, you might be able to actually derive some insights from that conversation. So it started from a different topic, ended up on a different topic, but ultimately that discussion was fruitful and it gave some insight which was relevant for all the 10 people in the room. So, which is why it is so important to have good listening skill and uh, rather than just speaking, be naturally interested in what other person is saying, being respectful to them, and you'll get a lot of opportunities to showcase that, to demonstrate that. And sometimes we unconsciously or subconsciously don't do that. So it is high time that if you want to focus upon your communication skills and relationship skills, you start understanding what your body and your non-verbal cues are communicating. Trust building and soft skills in CA practice. So if there's a high tension meeting, the atmosphere is tense, emotionally charged, and then in such kind of atmosphere, no matter how sensible you are, it can happen that whatever you convey goes into the wrong direction or it goes haywire. Now, how do we manage that? So, the most important element at that moment is not to drive the point across. The most important objective at that moment is to release the tension, to move to a more pleasant situation so that discussions could be meaningful. Otherwise, though you have all the right intent, whatever you are communicating will fall on deaf ears and instead would be taken in a different tone. Now, if some of you are married, uh, or any of you who are married, might also be able to collate this in your interactions with spouse. So sometimes what happens, in order to convey how right we are, we stop listening to what other person is saying. And then it goes to that extent that we stop listening to what we are also saying, and we convey or we say certain things which we don't really mean. And we end up hurting the people who matter the most for us. So some people say that I manage my personal life is different, professional life is different, I'm very different professionally. But if you start observing, communication is one such skill, or rather, I would not even call it a skill, it's a behavior trait which can be improved. So it is something that you can learn and improve, which has an impact in both personal as well as professional life. So you need to be mindful of what you are doing, why you are doing, catching yourself in the action, and course correcting. One example of this being mindful and course correction I would like to share here. So I was in a meeting with me and another colleague of mine. So we are in the same team. We were presenting something, and when a topic came, I spoke over my colleague and I took over from there, shared what I want to say, and then concluded the topic and ended the call. But I felt somewhere that I have been disrespectful through this last 15 or 20 minutes, so as to say. So I went ahead, texted my colleague that I want to connect over a call, called him up, and told him that, hey, I felt that maybe I've done this. I shouldn't have done this, and I'll be more cautious next time. And if you ever feel that I'm doing this again, please feel free to let me know because I want to correct this and I also feel it is not right. Now, what that does is, firstly, whatever uh, perception the other person had or whatever emotions were there, now they are no more there. We've already resolved. So it is not parked for later as a emotional baggage. Then the second thing, Now that I have clearly stated that my intentions are right and I might at times do something which is not aligned, I'm also giving myself opportunity to correct myself and improve myself. And thereby, there's increased level of trust, there's better communication, and this will naturally result in better performance and better professional relationship. So these kind of situations, being mindful, catching yourself. Now, in this situation, overall, we have improved communication, but this doesn't involve any of the, I mean, here English had no role to play. Uh, Here, what grammar had no role to play, right? How beautiful my slides look, it had no role to play. In majority of communication that we do, sometimes people feel that uh, either I am not very confident, either or maybe my grammar or English or language is not so great, or maybe I am good at speaking, but my presentation is not doesn't look good, or my presentation skills are not good. But for major part of our communication, it doesn't really matter. We are speaking with person one to one in most of the situations. And even when we are talking in a group, we are speaking with people whom we know, so there's a personal connect there. So the communication, we restrict it into a very narrow space, but it's a broader, way broader theme or a skill that is needed. Clarifying intent. So we've already spoken about this, that clarify the true intention of participant. It helped changing the meeting's outcome positively. Now, let's say you are in a audit. After audit, you've gone to a discussion and you are sharing the findings. Now, if you clarify that the intent is to have better reporting, uh, true and fair representation, and how we can strive to make it as accurate or as close to what is required as possible or what is right, and um, we drive the discussion in that direction, then it automatically diffuses the tension. Sometimes what happens, a normal technical discussion becomes a heated, charged debate and then argument. Rather, if we align, if two parties are aligned on the end objective, so we can simply say that, hey, maybe so much emotions are not needed. Both of us agree that the end objective is this. My view is that if we do this, then the objective is met. Your view you have shared. Let's try and understand each other's perspective, and then maybe we can either meet in middle or understand each other's perspective, and then come at a common understanding. So clarifying intent is equally important. Maintaining warmth and authenticity. So authenticity is not just if you talk about in communication or even in relationship, authenticity is the single uh, thing. If I need to find out, if you want to establish that you are a trusted professional, so being authentic matters the most. Now, if I am approaching a client when they are giving me business, when I'm yet to get their business, and I'm being super nice to them, I'm meeting them on time and doing everything which should be done to get the business and giving my 100%. But the moment I get their business, I stop taking their calls or deprioritize them. And then there's a change in stance. If that happens, then you are no more authentic. So you haven't carried yourself in the same way throughout the duration of engagement. Now, what that does is the repeat engagement that you will get and the increased business share that you will get from that organization, that will not happen. So, we need to strive to be consistent, to be authentic with our core selves. At the same time, being authentic doesn't give you a leeway to not course correct yourself. Sometimes what people do is, I am who I am, this is how I am, and I speak this way, I speak in this way. So in order to be authentic, If people feel I am rude, I will be rude, but I will be authentic. So that is not the intent. Being authentic means understanding about yourself. At the same time, if you're trying to improve yourself, make a few changes to yourself, do that, but do that consistently. So if I know that this is one area where I'm trying to improve upon, so over a period it will improve, but that doesn't mean I am not authentic. Being authentic means that you are same with every person, or your response is same in all kind of scenarios or situations, and whatever you are preaching is what you are actually practicing also. So if somebody is not authentic, then they end up being uh, mistrust, and people don't trust them easily, and then they lose the uh, relationship in the longer term. Um, I did another webcast some time back on networking. There also we spoke about why being authentic really matters. If I am, um, I've gone to let's say a conference and I've met 100 people, shook hands, exchanged cards, and came back, but there was not a single authentic conversation, a person with whom I connected really well, then there's no purpose of visiting that and spending that time, energy, money, because you will end up gaining nothing from that entire event. If you are authentic, you are carrying your true self, you meet people whom you liked, or you approach the right set of people, had really nice conversations, you were genuinely interested in them, you shared warmth, then it will bring uh, fewer but really meaningful connections with whom you can scale and grow. It might not immediately result into some uh, tangible outcome, but in the long run, it will definitely provide you in some or the other way, some sort of uh, benefit, or rather, you would be happy that you had that relationship with that person. Um, on that, I'll also like to give an example. So for my book, I was reaching out to people, uh, and this Mr. CA Abhijit Sansgiri, he's based out of Mumbai. Um, he's also a chartered accountant. To For getting a review of the book, and he was the one who wrote the foreword for the book. Now, how I met him? Um, 7 years back, I dropped a LinkedIn message to him saying that my aim is to become a CEO of a Fortune 500 company in the time to come, and I would really appreciate your guidance on how to be there. He liked my straightforwardness. I don't know why, but then he reached out to me and we had a discussion. He gave me certain suggestions. I followed them, and then we stayed in touch. Um, we've met multiple times whenever I get the chance to visit Mumbai or he comes to Delhi. And then because we stayed in touch, I was doing whatever he was suggesting. He became my mentor. Uh, so we had a really nice relationship. In that relationship, maybe he's not getting anything from me, but he's vested in my success. So he really likes to help me and suggest me what I can do to do things better. So he went ahead, wrote the forward. Then he suggested that maybe I should meet president of CA Institute, um, because he's also very interested in internal audit as a topic. He shared his contact number. I reached out to him. He was gracious enough to call me in his office on CA day, and it went beyond my expectation. Me and my wife, we met him and entire council, central council. I presented him the book. Then we had a discussion for around an hour on the book and other topics. So, uh, a normal LinkedIn message wherein we both genuinely showed interest in each other and had really meaningful conversation, and we were authentic with each other, that resulted in this kind of result or outcome. And it happened 7 years later. So anything can happen, but being authentic and know why I am doing what I am doing and sticking to it and sharing warmth with people really makes a huge difference in your relationships and in communication. Factors influencing trust building. So, what all really helps in building trust? Because if you have trust, communication is all about understanding what other person is saying and communicating effectively what you want to convey to the other person. If there is lack of trust, no matter how good you are with drafting your message or structuring your message, the delivery will not be effective because the other person doesn't trust what you are saying. On the other end, if trust is there, you wouldn't have to even spend a lot of efforts in communicating what you want to say, but you'll still end up communicating really well. So, uh, trust is associated with authenticity, and its outcome is improved communication. So, trust building is not primarily influenced by intelligence, it is by other interpersonal factors, which we've discussed. No matter how intelligent I am, if you feel threatened in my presence, or if you feel that uh, I do not really think the best for you, or my intentions are not the best ones for you, uh, you will not really trust me, and we will not have a good conversation or good communication, excluding rank and experience. So if you have experience that I have such and such position, I have been in professional for so many years, so on and so forth, that alone does not guarantee that there would be trust between individuals. So you would have to demonstrate that first. Obviously, if somebody is coming with the experience, then you would firstly have some notion in mind that if they are saying something, then maybe it might be based on certain things which are valid, but then it will get tested over time, and then you will uh, earn trust of the other person with time when you demonstrate that you've been authentic and you really walk the talk. Behavioral signals, your non-verbal cues, behavioral signals play a crucial role in forming trust. If, let's say, I say that I am genuinely interested in what you are saying, I listen to you, whatever you say. But when I see you, maybe you were rolling your eyes or yawning or not paying signal, looking at your phone, not really listening to me. Uh, so those non-verbal cues are simply telling me you're not really interested and you just said it for the sake of it. Presence and emotional intelligence, being present, being emotionally intelligent, that really strengthens our trust in relationships. Okay, because we understand a common language, which is of risk. So let's see what all risks are there in communication. So misalignment issues, lack of, if communication is not good, what all can go wrong? So lack of clear communication can cause team misalignment and hinder project success. If everyone on the team is not aligned with what is our end objective, if it is not clear, then there could definitely be misalignment, and then there's no guarantee that whatever you are striving to do will be a success. Another thing which is not mentioned here, which is more related to influencing people, and so people have their own agendas and they drive their own agendas. So if you do not have a good relationship with people, then it might happen that maybe you've delivered to the best of your professional capability, but the agendas were misaligned, and somebody who is in the capacity to hinder your progress will do so to meet their own agendas. So it is very important that we identify the right stakeholders who all really matter to the success of what I am doing, understand their agendas, understand what their perspective is, and then trying to deliver something which is also meeting their agenda. Or if that is not possible, then at least have a conversation, have a discussion around that how we can make it a success. Make them a co-partner, make them a co-owner of what you are doing, and make them vested in your success. Escalation impact. If poor soft skills are there, then it could lead to escalation that disrupt workflow and increase tension. Another example here. So uh, there was one work which we were doing, and a consultant, external third party consultant was onboarded to manage that activity. Now, what was happening was that either the consultant was not able to understand the work, what we are saying, or what the third party is saying, and then there was communication gap. They were not timely communicating, they were not documenting what discussion has been so far, and then it led to project delays. And then there were escalations, and it was not clear that what is really happening and why is it happening, because there was gap in understanding, and then there was gap in communication. So I always say that over communication is always better than under communication. If, let's say, you were supposed to share status update on a weekly basis of what you are doing, if you do that on a bi-weekly basis, every 2 days, every 3 days, that is much better than doing it every 15 days or every month, because then you are clearly communicating, and then you are giving opportunity for the other person to have a look and share their perspective. Defensiveness in communication blocks constructive feedback and resolution. Now here, on constructive feedback also, there are different schools of thought. But firstly, we'll talk about defensiveness. If somebody is not receptive to what you are saying, if they are defensive, then your feedback again will fall on dead ears. Why this happens? If you approach to them in a tone that threatens certain beliefs of theirs, if I feel that I am good with a certain topic, and you share me a critique which essentially is trying to establish that whatever I feel about myself is not right, and you're outrightly saying that, it might be even the situation that you are correct, but I would go into defensive mode and block whatever you're saying, and then would give a counter argument rather than deliberating what you've conveyed is actually correct or not. So there are different approaches to giving feedback. Some people use sandwich, wherein you start with a good thing, you share feedback, then you end with another good thing, so that whatever criticism you've shared, that was in the middle, and the other person feels balanced. That yes, I have done things correctly. Some people feel that it should be direct, whatever I have done. Um, in my case, when I was supposed to share feedback with people who were more experienced than me, were seniors to me, but we were part of an engagement where I was managing or leading them. So I thought that, okay, how can I contribute to their improvement, or what can I really share that will help them improve further? So I went ahead with that mindset. So I was very confused. I reached out to my manager asking that I'm not sure how to give feedback in this kind of situation. So firstly, he said that have a clear intent in your mind. Do you want to pinpoint their shortcomings, or do you want them to improve themselves? If your intent is to contribute towards their improvement, then you have a very clear intent. Then from that perspective, you start looking objectively at the feedback that you want to share, and then deliver that accordingly. Now, sometimes I feel that the other person still might perceive it differently. Then how I structured it is that this is what I feel. I gave specific example, and it was never in the tone that you've done this, you've done that, because of you that went wrong. Firstly, replace I with we, and then saying that maybe this is something which I feel we could have done differently. And with the same sentence, I also add that uh, please feel free to share if you think otherwise. Uh, Maybe there's something which I am missing. So I'm open that maybe my understanding is not 100% correct, and there are a lot of things going on, and I might not be aware of all the things. So please correct me if I am wrong. This is what I feel, and would really love to understand from your perspective whether my understanding is correct, and what how I can contribute to improve this further. So this is how I used to structure that, and then it became a very constructive. discussion. So if somebody is technically very strong, or rather even stronger than me, I know that maybe I'm not in a position to share with them how to handle certain things technically, but then I sense that they are not very keen to interact with certain stakeholders, do presentations, or maybe their emails, they are too apologetic. They say sorry a lot even when they are not required to. So maybe I identified those kind of situations, shared examples that this is what I saw, and maybe you could have done this differently. It has, and then share why I am saying this. It has worked in my case. I've changed from how I used to do that earlier to now, and how it has helped me. So when we are giving a constructive feedback and we are clarifying intent, then the defensiveness barrier gets removed. At the same time, when you are at the receiving end, so which is why we started with mindfulness in the beginning of session. Mindfulness is equally important. Being aware that what the other person is saying might be correct or might not be 100% incorrect. Maybe I should give it a pause, try and understand what they are saying before giving it back to them or before becoming defensive. Rework consequences. Ineffective communication result in rework, wasting time and resources. It is always good to paraphrase what the other person has said. Rather, it is advisable. Let's say you are in a meeting with a client and they asked you that this is what we need. You took notes, you went home, started working on it, uh, gave your 100%, delivered the outcome to client, and the client said, "This is not what I really meant." On the other hand, what we could have easily done is after the meeting, share the minutes, or even during the meeting, paraphrase or just restate what the other person is saying in a way that if I've understood correctly, this is what you've said, or this is what I've understood that I'm supposed to do, and maybe I'll go home, I'll prepare a rough outline or a broad idea of how this is going to work. I'll share with you for your inputs and let me know if any changes are needed in between. And maybe in between also just do a check-in that this is what I've done so far. Does this look good to you or any changes are needed or not? So it is like I said, over communication is always better than under communication. If you feel if it is too much or not, rather than not doing it, if you feel the need is there, it is better to just go ahead and do that, right? Credibility loss. If there are inadequate soft skills, if you're not able to clearly communicate what you want to say, why you are saying it, then you lose credibility among your peers and clients. Now, sometimes what happens is there are a lot of people who are technically very sound. This has happened in one case wherein we were, uh, let's say, looking for a certain professional, and we met for a certain service. We met 3 to 5 professionals, and some of them might be technically very strong, but when asked that how would you handle this situation, um, their responses were not very clear. So they were not able to satisfy uh, us in terms of what their stance is or why they are thinking what they are thinking and why they do what they do. So because their communication was not clear, it was not confident, they were not able to get the business. So it is very important that we go with a confident uh, mindset and we understand uh, why we are saying what we are saying, and what is in it for the other person. Let's say if you have very strong technical knowledge on a particular topic, but I only am concerned about a specific aspect of that topic, and you tell me 100 things about other things which I'm not interested in, then there's no point in you wasting your time throwing jargons at me. So it is very important that firstly you understand what the other person need, have a very customer focused mindset, understand whatever I am saying or doing, what is in it for the other person for whom I am doing that work. communication challenges and internal barriers for CAs. We've been discussing about this. Let's pick up a few more cases which are even more prominent with our profession. Excess use of jargons. Using too much technical knowledge create confusion and widens communication gaps. Now, in today's day and age, people are moving toward super specialization. So maybe after spending 10 years into taxation, if somebody is only dealing with taxation and after spending 10 years in, let's say, transfer pricing, if something on uh, an accounting standard or on Ind AS comes to them, and it is and somebody reaches out to them and throw a lot many jargons just to establish that they are well versed with the topic, the other person will feel frustrated and confused. Why? Because it could have been said in simpler language. And throwing jargons doesn't necessarily makes you an expert on this topic. Rather, it is opposite. If you can explain a very complex topic in simplest of the words, then you are truly an expert on that topic. So your ability to simplify things, to make them understandable for the wider audience, makes you an expert and not the other way around. And this is a very common mistake which we do day in, day out. Cold tone. Having a detached, impersonal tone can lead to emotional distance in conversations. Some people might be really busy, but some people, just for the sake of it, they would be very detached, very impersonal in conversation, looking at phones and saying, yeah, I will do that, and carry a certain character. They might be perceiving that they are giving themselves important, or I'm too important for the conversation, that it is best that you don't engage in that conversation. If you're meeting somebody, then you should really give them your undivided attention and time and share that warmth. Now, there are uh, there's a very, I mean, if you look at interviews of multiple celebrities who might have interacted with Shah Rukh Khan, so you might have heard that when you meet him or with Amitabh Bachchan, then for them, whenever you meet them or anybody meets them, they are very engaged in the conversation, and the other person really feels heard, that they are listening to us. The person feels heard, and they really admire them. On the contrary, if somebody is let's say became star in an instant, and and then it's a they came into limelight, and then they had this ego problem, and then they are not willing to speak with people. uh, they don't want to invest time, have good conversation, or actually look engaged at least. So the moment the person meets you, before that they were your fan, but afterwards they hate you. And with time, people hating you becomes more than the people who really like you. And then because you were not authentic, maybe I played a character on screen which is very warm, very nice person, very a great human being, but in person that is not what the other person felt. Then there would be a disconnect. So cold tone is something which is something which some people carry with pride, but I see no sense in why they do that. Um, so it's a personal call, but uh, if a leader if a leader of organization who is very approachable, uh, as compared to somebody who who is difficult to meet and not willing to speak with anyone, give himself put himself on a pedestal and consider others as a lesser self. So the respect the leader first kind of leader gets versus the second kind of leader gets is massively different. Um, you might be successful also in certain aspects because of that, but then you're not a great leader, right? So it is some people might still get success even with cold tone, even with not being authentic. So this is not a barometer. But if you want to work on your communication skills, uh, so for in 90, 95, 99% of the cases, cold tone will not help you. And those people are lucky enough that they didn't get rejected or didn't met any uh, adverse situation. So it's just a matter of luck, but the best thing is to have warmth. Defensive reactions block open dialogue and increase emotional avoidance. Fear of being wrong, worrying about mistakes inhibit honest communication and emotional expression. You want to be 100% correct, or you have a self image that I cannot be wrong. Now, when that is there, then you might go to any length just to establish that whatever you are saying is correct. So we should be cautious, and there is no harm in casually admitting that yes, maybe give me some time. This is something that I need to look into, and I'll definitely get back to you on this. So this is something that you can say, and there's no wrong, no harm in doing that. And if you are wrong, then it is pretty much okay, and rather it makes you a better leader if you admit that mistake, correct it, and move on. So that shows that you are a human at first, and you can also make mistake, but you have a great ability to course to firstly identify it, then do course correction, and then correct it. Internal barriers. What all internal barriers are there to effective communication? Conflict aversion. People want to avoid conflict, hence they do not want to have honest and open communication, which is limiting problem resolution and understanding. Now, having open and honest communication, especially in personal relationships, because you are emotionally much more invested in them, um, is a lot of hard work. Uh, but even in professional settings, it might not take as much effort, but it would lead to uh, way better outcomes. So people try and avoid conflict, but if that conflict or if mindset is there that I don't like the other person, then it can always hinder open and honest communication. Now, another example on this, on conflict aversion. So when I joined consulting, I had certain prejudices or certain assumption about uh, a manager with whom I worked. And same happened in the subsequent organization also. When we started working, I was getting critical feedback from the person, and I was not liking it at that time. But looking back, uh, or rather, after 3 months, I started understanding what the other person wants to really convey and started implementing the feedback that they have shared. That led to me becoming a better professional. And now I realize that all those hard days that that manager gave me really helped me in becoming a better professional. Or if a client, let's say a client is a difficult one, sometimes what happens, let's say as an intern, if I talk about it as a story, there was a client during articleship in which when we used to go, the client was very tough one. So normally what happens if you go on audit, you ask for 10 different data points, you follow up with them, you go after their life that this is what I haven't received. I need it by end of day, and then you escalate to their managers also and get the data and then start working on it. But when we start afresh, we are not even aware that what we are requesting, why we need it. Still, we ask for it, we follow up for it, we escalate it, and sometimes even after when we get the file, we don't do anything with it. So all these kind of things happen. But with that client, the problem was the moment you go to them and ask them about something, they will ask you 10 questions on why you need it, what will you do with it, why something other won't work. All those kind of questions will be asked. Now, because I am not well versed uh, with that, what I am really asking or what I want to really take and why I am doing, why I'm asking for that data. I was point blank, and then the client sent me back saying that ask your senior first and then come back. So that conversation really helped me learn something that I need to focus upon understanding the why I'm asking what I'm asking and what I am asking also. What data do I need? Uh, so that helped me being prepared. So then I made sure that before going to into any meeting, I will prepare myself and then I will go into that meeting. So all those difficult conversations really or difficult situations really help us in becoming a better professional, a better person. And that is the learning zone. That is the growth zone. Ego attachment, if we have strong ego attachment that and we attach our identity with something that this is who I am and I cannot be wrong with this thing or I am perfect at this or set these kind of mindset, uh, then it create resistance to feedback. We are not willing to receive feedback. We will push back on it and it obstruct effective message exchange. Now also, we should keep our mind open that it could happen from the other side also. You might feel, you might have experienced situations wherein you shared something which is true and which is helpful to the other person, but then they pushed back. And then we went into, you and that person, you went into argument mode rather than discussing. Now, why that happened? Because we fail to understand that the other person has attached his or her ego to that topic. And instead of tackling that situation tactically, we've just went ruthless and then shared feedback more strongly, hurting the ego even further. Low emotional vocabulary, limited emotional vocabulary restrict expressing feeling clearly, causing misunderstanding. Now, uh, if I'm not able to clearly articulate how I am feeling, why I'm feeling, then the other person might not be able to understand that also. And it could happen on the other way around also. The other person might not be able to express to you why they are doing it the way they are doing. Now, this also brings me to an interesting thought that let's say if if somebody has done something uh, which you think is wrong and you feel the other person should say sorry to you or apologize to you first. Now you put yourself in their shoes, and then you might think that in this kind of situation, it would have been difficult for me as well because I don't know how to engage in that kind of discussions. I know that I don't feel great about what I have done, but then at the same time, I am not aware on how to communicate that or discuss that with the other person. So, because of this misunderstanding, I will not go back and apologize, but you will continue to feel that uh, I am wrong and I have no regret because that I have done that. So, so this kind of situations, I mean, being mindful and be thoughtful also that the other person might also be coming from a different place. Give that opportunity that we might be wrong in understanding, or if somebody has said something, don't put too much weightage on that and move ahead and give the person benefit of doubt and another chance. That is a skill which is even more difficult to master, but that will really take the communication to next level. Now, when I started with the example of a manager. So I was having a conversation with him, and this is exactly what he told me, that we should give benefit of doubt to the other person. There, maybe he had a bad morning. Maybe he had some problems at home. He or she had a problem at home. There could be thousand different reasons of why they reacted the way they reacted, and maybe they are not uh, they don't really mean what they've said. So having the capacity to give that benefit of doubt really improves the communication. Now, you might be wondering that we have not really covered how to improve communication and relationships skills so far. But what I want to focus, firstly, we will move to that section also, but I want to really focus upon why this matters and what all are the black spots which we are not paying attention to. If we are really curious to learn, to invest in ourselves, we'll go to the extent that, okay, maybe I will not do conflict. Uh, I I will not do conflict aversion, not attach ego, um, maybe use words to describe what I'm feeling emotionally. Will not tie my identity to correctness. So I can correct myself, but what can I do with the other person? What we can do with the other person is at least give them a benefit of doubt that there could be 20, 50, 100,000 different situations of why what has happened. So this will broaden your horizon, and then it will help you manage both communication as well as difficult situations. Identity tied to correctness. When personal identity depends on being correct, it blocks open dialogue and learning. If I am saying that I am an internal auditor, and my personal identity is that I am an experienced internal auditor who is great at his work. If somebody will at any point in time show or tell anything which is not aligned with this identity, I'll go to any extent to defend that, and then things might go in the wrong direction. So we should just give some time to um, introspect, maybe once a day. Just introspect what has happened throughout the day. If there were any such instances, spend some time on it and try and look at it from 360-degree view, not just from the lens that what I have said, whether that is correct or not. And this I have felt is something which has helped me personally also, both professionally as well as personally, because like I was giving you example that I had a hard time with certain managers when I started out in different companies, but with time I felt that they were coming with the right intent and they actually are nice people, and we ended up becoming really good friends. So just give yourself that room to change the perception that you have for people, for certain people, that it might happen because of the timing or thousand different reasons, but maybe the person is not as bad as I think, and it could be vice versa also. Maybe the person is not as good as I think, or maybe the other person is communicating that they are aligned, but they might not really be aligned. So just keep that room for benefit of doubt, and just communicate and paraphrase. High stake conversations and conflict escalations. I think this is something which we've already covered, but as chartered accountants, we often face high stake situations like you might disagree on certain treatment, certain adjustment entries, and there could be conflicts with CFO or financial reporting, interpretation that require resolution. Now, in this kind of situations, typically what I do is I try and list down that what are the key factors or key topics. Uh, then, when I see that the discussion is going into a wrong direction, and it is more about what you said versus what I said, and it is going into a argument rather than a discussion, then I take a pause. I establish that what is my objective here, and if I feel that there are 5 points and there are 2 points on which we both agree, so I skip the parts on which we don't agree. I firstly take up the points on which we agree, establish a common ground, and then move towards a point where we have a disagreement and try and find a mid solution or middle path, or explain to each other why we are saying what we are saying. Now, this really helps in diffusing tensions and have meaningful conversations. So, clearly establish what your objective is. and then have a fair discussion. Start with topics on which you both agree, close those, and then move to topics on which there is room for discussion. Escalations, there are critical issues which are escalated to higher management for urgent decision making and resolution, and you might be the reason for those escalations, or in both the ways. Maybe you are the one who has escalated, or maybe because of you things got escalated. It could be either way. Accounting judgment, making complex and subjective judgment require expertise and careful consideration by CAs. But then, whatever we are doing, it is equally important to communicate the why. Sometimes what we do is that I've looked at it and this is what I feel. And we go ahead and share what we feel or what is right as per our judgment. But we don't go out an extra mile to communicate why we feel what we have communicated is correct. So, sharing the why of your outcome or of what you've concluded of your judgment really impacts the other person, because then they feel that yes, the other person has taken the effort to explain to them, to me, that why they've arrived at a certain decision, and also it gives them a room to explain to you why they have a different understanding of things. So please focus on not just sharing what is your decision or what is your judgment. Please do also share that why you feel the same. Data delay. So it happens in a lot of cases that we receive inaccurate data, or there is delay in receiving the data, which ultimately impact the timely reporting or decision making process. And then what we typically do is we go into escalation mode. Reminder one, gentle reminder one, gentle reminder two, then top up email to their manager, to the owner, or to the top management saying that, hey, this is not moving and the other person is not doing this or that. On the other hand, there is an alternate approach which could be used, which really helps in smoothing things out, which is that these are the 10 things that I need from you. This was the date on which by which I requested. Now, because you haven't shared, I'm sharing an alternate date, that please share it by, let's say, end of day tomorrow. And please help me understand what all challenges you have, if any, in sharing this by end of day tomorrow. So now here you are also bringing in empathy, that I know that I might not be fully aware of your challenges. So please do share those with me, and I will try and help to remove some of the challenges if possible. Or alternatively, I'll make changes in my plan so that we both can agree on common date and then close the pendency. So there's a process. I mean, if you go from that perspective, then you've now we are not saying that you are the reason. We are not pinpointing somebody that because of you it is getting delayed. So there's no reason why the other person would be defensive. And if the other person is not defensive, they are more receptive to what you are communicating. So if I am asking you what all challenges you have, maybe they might just say that maybe this is a priority issue and maybe it skipped my mind, I failed to prioritize it, and I'll share it first thing in the morning tomorrow. And you will get that details. So just think from a perspective that how the other person will perceive my message. If and also think about the intent. Is my intent to get the data, or is my intent to name and shame that person? If my ultimate objective is to get the data by tomorrow, then I might go in a different direction and ask them that what all challenges you have, and maybe let's agree on something if this doesn't work for you. Walkthrough gaps. Gaps in process walkthrough can lead to misled errors and control weaknesses in financial report. And sometimes what happens is, let's say, I've felt this multiple times when we do audits, we are doing walkthrough, we ask questions, and we share gaps. So people feel that you've came today, I've been doing the same thing for past 20 years, and now you are saying that what I am doing is not correct, and you, in what capacity are you suggesting to me that I am wrong? Now, to navigate these kind of situations, it is very important that you firstly calm the person down. So what I used to do is I used to tell them that, sir, the objective of uh, this exercise is to identify how we can improve things. Then secondly, you're working here, and I have experience of diverse industries and diverse organizations. So I know how the same work is getting done or being done by 20 different organizations. So I am aware of certain best practices which you might not know. And obviously from here also I will learn certain best practices which I might convey to other people. And based on that experience, I am sharing that this could be done in an alternate way also. And this is how I've seen other people doing. So then the defensiveness is not there. We are not saying that you are wrong. We are saying that this could be done in a different way, which can lead to better outcome. And this is what we've seen in other organization happening, and it worked there. Provisioning disputes. So a part of financial reporting, dispute over provision require negotiation and clear accounting policies to resolve. So you might in your day-to-day situation can see all these kind of scenarios. Why conflicts escalate? What is the reason for conflict escalation? Unclear intention. Intention is not clear why the other person is saying what they are saying. Uh, and when the message's intent is ambiguous or misunderstood, then there would definitely be conflict. Ignoring emotions, overlooking emotional cues. When you feel that the client or let's say the finance controller at the client place is not comfortable with one topic, or they are a bit sensitive about certain thing, and you ignore those emotional cues, and then you went in a steamroller mode and shared what you wanted to share, or you wrote a harsh email anyways, then you are overlooking emotional cues, and then temperature can intensify. There could be misunderstanding, and it could further worsen conflict. Immediate rebuttal. Uh, if somebody is saying something without listening to it, I am just waiting that the moment the other person end, I will throw a rebuttal. So at that time, we are not really listening to what other person is saying. What we are doing is let them complete, and in between I am preparing my response, that what will I respond with. So there you've blocked constructive dialogue. You are not listening to what other person is saying, you are preparing your response, and then uh, it is not a communication, it is two people speaking over each other, not leading anywhere. Tone and ego issues. There could be tone mismatch and ego activation, which could increase hostility and hinder resolution efforts. So if somebody is really calm, uh, and and goes ahead and explain why they are doing what they are doing, that can really lead to very different results. One example, I was interacting with somebody in East Europe. It was around Christmas time. The person was about to go on leave, and there was very, now I look at it, maybe a very basic or a stupid question, so as to say, but I still wanted to clarify that. And I checked with them, and I set up a half an hour call with the person. And maybe that day was not so great for that person. So when we jumped into the call, the lady was very irritated. And then her response is, why have you set up this call? I've already uploaded whatever was needed on the SharePoint side. What do you need from my end? Uh, and felt really, really frustrated. And so I went ahead very softly, in a very soft tone. I explained to her that what I wanted to convey, why I've scheduled this meeting, what my problem was, what help I needed, and meeting. ended in about 10 minutes. I thanked her and wished her a good Christmas and New Year's Eve break. Um, and I was there in the meeting throughout with a smile on my face and very calm demeanor. Now, I was not expecting any change in her stance. I just wanted to get things done. And this is generally how I carry myself. But before ending the call, the lady apologized, saying that there are certain things which are outside her control because of which she was agitated and irritated. Hence, uh, she did or said what she said or behaved in a certain manner, and she apologized for it and then wished me back, and then we had a good parting. And then from there on, we had a good relationship, good working relationship. So having a tone, if I'm very if I'm speaking in a soft tone, very warmly with you, then beyond a point, you would not be able to continue in the same tone, and then scold, or continue to speak in high pitch, or at the very least, it will stop the other person to go to next level, or make things worse. And you are then still protecting your image as a professional. And I'm not saying that we need not put our points strongly, but then tone can always be managed. Even if you want to put something strongly, we can always do that by staying calm and composed and in a very warm demeanor. Now, magnet trust model. So, whatever we have discussed, I've tried to create a framework around it, which is called magnet. Um, and how this helps is, so using this framework, this is an acronym, magnet. Um, and using this acronym, you can, just a second, you would be able to remember. So, what all you need to take away from this session. So, M is mindful vulnerability. Be open, be aware of one's feeling. If I am aware of my feeling, it is fostering genuine connection and it is building trust. Uh, you can be selectively vulnerable also. If a great leader is one who is also comfortable with sharing what he or she is feeling. So be open. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Admit something that, okay, maybe this is something I'm not great at and I'm working on it. Uh, Another great example, or rather, I mean, I feel it is great, but an example of, uh, I mean, how this has worked for me, the even in the case of the book. So, for my book, when I asked for feedback from different people, what they told me is in the first chapter, I've narrated the story of how what my initial years in consulting looked at and my challenges. Um, so in every new job for the first 3 months, there was struggle. Either it was new environment, new set of colleague, a new organization, expectations are different, and it was incremental also. I mean, the level of professionalism in the organization, the kind of people I am dealing with, the expectations, everything changes. So first 3 months is really something wherein it is difficult to understand what is happening there. Uh, it's a difficult period. Then you start understanding, I start performing, and after 1 year, I start to um, achieve something meaningful within a year and then start outperforming peers. So this is a cycle that I've understood, and I've shared the stories wherein, uh, let's say I joined consulting, and it was giving me a tough time. The working hours were long. I was not able to cope up with it. I had chat with my parents. I told them I don't want to continue this, that, and then I made up my mind that maybe I'll spend some time and I'll make sure that I do something meaningful here, achieve here, and then move to some something other. Even if I want to quit, I will not quit as a loser. I will prove to myself that I'm really worthy of this position, this role, and I uh, want to prove myself. And once I've done that, then I can decide whether I want to continue or want to do something else. So that story I have shared in book, or whenever we discuss that with people, I discuss with that with people. So I really sense that people genuinely connect. They feel that yes, this is something which somebody really wouldn't share. But if my objective is to tell you that being vulnerable really helps you establish trust, and then it could be demonstrated in different scenarios or with different set of examples. If as a leader, if I'm saying that maybe this is where I need to improve after meeting, maybe I pushed here too much, I'll be cautious about it next time. There also I'm being vulnerable. I am open, I am aware of my feeling, and then I want to foster genuine connection and build trust. So this really helps you in establishing connection and getting good relationships, and also helps you in building rapport and demonstrate your authenticity. And because you have that, then definitely your conversation and communication and relationship will improve. Authenticity, genuine behavior, and honesty, they are the foundation of trustworthy relationships. If I am saying all the good things about you in your presence and then all the bad things about you in your absence, then there's no authenticity, and then I can't be trusted. If three people are there in the room, and um, in front of the person I'm saying all the good things, but the moment person exit the room, uh, I'm speaking all the bad things about that person, the third person will automatically understand that the moment he will leave the room, he or she will leave the room, and somebody else would enter, I would do the same for with them also. So then the relationship will not be genuine. It will not be formed on trust. So we should be very cautious on how we are carrying ourselves. Uh, should l- strictly refrain from engaging into gossips, because if somebody is gossiping about one person, then that trust can get lost easily. Generosity, so willingness to give and share, enrich interpersonal bond and trust. And if you are helping somebody in the expectation that you will get something in return, then um, you might be in for a surprise. I mean, definitely it does come back in different forms and shapes, but it might not be immediate. So, which is why you should just help because you want to do that. And the generosity also is linked with the fact that if you want to praise somebody, go ahead and do that in public. If something you feel that somebody is really good at, go ahead and do that in public. There's nobody stopping you from that. And this is something we avoid generally. Which we should not. Nurturing warmth, providing care and kindness nurtures a safe environment for trust to grow. If you're genuinely interested in the other person' well-being, then they see you as a good leader. They understand that you really care about them, and then when the time will come, they will also go out on a limb to support you. But the reason why I'm doing it is not because I want them to go out on a limb for me, uh, at a later stage, but because this is what I am. So nurture warmth, share a bond with people, uh, and it is not necessary to do that with everyone. Just be consistent and have meaningful relationships, even if it is with a lesser number of people. Empathy, understand and share others' feeling. It strengthens emotional connection. And empathy doesn't only mean that you feel sorry for somebody, or you mm, You just go out to them, ask them that what they feel. Whatever we've discussed so far also is empathy is something which also deals with these kind of topics. If somebody has screamed at you, understanding that they might be coming from a different mindset, they could be having that giving that benefit of doubt also is a part of empathy. And for that, you need very strong emotional intelligence quotient or EQ, which we call it, because there you would need to, I mean, disassociate with that argument, control your feelings. Firstly, identify that, okay, because you've said this, I felt angry. Now I've acknowledged that feeling. Now, leaving that aside, then I will the first step is to identify that, yes, I am feeling angry. Then once you acknowledge, then half of the anger is anyways gone. Then try and understand why I'm feeling angry. And then the third level, which is the highest level, is understanding the perspective of other person, why the other person might have done something or said something because of which you are feeling hurtful. So once you go to the third level, this level in empathy, then there's hardly anything which can really shake you or make you feel uncomfortable or make you angry. Automatically you becomes a much calmer person anyways. Trustworthiness and presence, consistent reliability and attentive presence build lasting trust. Consistency and authenticity, I mean, they go hand in hand. If I have done something correct once, then I will get a second chance to do it. But if I am consistent, if I am reliable, if somebody feels that if I've given this to Gaurav, this will get done, or he could be trusted on this topic, then that builds a lasting trust. And believe you me, the opportunities that we get, uh, how technically strong we are, is only a very small element beyond a point. I mean, as you grow in your practice, it's a very small element of how much you know. Your business will come because of your communication and relationships, how much people trust you, what they feel around you. Do they feel that you are authentic? Uh, do they feel safe around you? Are you consistent? Are you reliable? So these factors matter more than the technical capability. And at the end of the day, I mean, with experience, you will also start to understand and acknowledge that there are rarely any work or anything that we typically do as part of desk job, typically in finance, um, um, or in accounting, taxation, that with time cannot be learned. So it is not something which is very unique to us. I mean, I might say that I have 10 years of experience, but somebody with 2 years of relevant experience might have equal and might even have a better understanding of the topic in which I claim myself to be an expert. So now, this, uh, because and today with AI, anybody can learn about anything, and if you want something is instantly, you can research something instantly and share responses and draft beautiful replies and messages and um, be consistent. So because all that is there, now this softer aspects of how people feel around you, how much reliable they think you are, what kind of whether they trust you or not, these things matter even more in today's scenario and day and age. So Magnet is a framework which will deliberate in more detail. Uh, so this framework is split into four kind of macro behavior domains: connection behavior, behavior focus on forming bonds, fostering cooperation; then relationship behavior, which emphasize building and maintaining interpersonal relationship and trust; then understanding behavior, which involve empathy, insight, comprehension of others' perspective, and then leadership behavior of guiding, influencing, and inspiring others towards shared goals. So these are the four behavior type of behaviors uh, which are getting covered through the trust magnet framework. So firstly, behavioral skills, connection, relationship, understanding, and leadership. So mindful vulnerability and intent clarification, confidence and transparency foster. If I have confidence in you or you have confidence in me and we are transparent with what we are communicating, then it will be open. And uncertainty, if there is uncertainty, uh, sorry, if there's confidence, there's transparency, then it reduces defensiveness. If intent is clear, then it really helps. Statement focus on clarity, alignment, and understanding rather than blame or conflict. This we've spoken. This we've discussed about that we should not um, be focusing upon putting the blame that you have not shared the data. The focus we should be on the objective, clearly stating what is the objective and then find out ways how to address it. Mindful vulnerability shift, changing reactive questions to open understanding request that promotes a constructive dialogue. Maybe if somebody snapped at you, then you take a pause. Instead of responding, instead of reacting, you take a pause, say, okay, this is what I feel. I have communicated what I have said, but maybe you have a different view. Maybe would you like to explain why you feel so strongly about what you've said? And give the other person a chance to clarify their perspective and also a chance to calm down. Authenticity and respectful disagreement. We can always agree to disagree. Uh, any disagreement need not become an argument. Which is why I said that firstly we should have clearly identify what all we agree on and then discuss about the points on which there is disagreement. Authentic communication, align words with tone and practice transparency in reasoning to communicate authentically. Now, here, what I do sometimes is maybe I got some email which irritated me. Then I drafted a harsh reply to that. Now, before sending it over, I copy pasted that reply, pasted on ChatGPT, asked it that make it professional and make the tone subtle. I don't want to sound harsh. I want to sound professional, but I want to put across my point uh, very strongly. So then it restructured my communication, and then I looked at that message, made minor edits, and then sent across that message. So there, instead of reacting, I've taken a minute, I've documented what I felt, but at the same time, I had a look whether what I'm saying will that meet what objective I'm trying to achieve or will further escalate the issue. Owning mistake, take responsibility for error. It fosters trust and encourage value-based communication. Now, some of the leaders also get very irritated if you continue to explain that I am not wrong and there are thousand different factors because of which it happened. Rather, what they appreciate is you owning the task, you taking accountability, you owning your mistakes, saying, yes, this is something which I've missed. I will be cautious, I will be careful that this doesn't repeat. And this is why it has happened, but I could have handled it differently. Then you are also being perceived as somebody who is open to learn and open to grow. So then instead of um, uh, instead of um, disagreements, or rather, instead of having arguments, people will have good, meaningful discussion, or leaders will have good, meaningful discussions with you, and then they might feel that you are the right person who actually can think from a leadership mindset perspective. Respectful disagreement step. Acknowledge perspective that okay, you have a perspective which I don't agree with. I have a perspective which on which you don't agree. Build agreement on points where you can agree on. Present your reasoning why you are saying what you are saying. understand from the other person their reasoning, explore constraints, and co-create conclusion for respectful disagreement. Okay, maybe then we arrive at a situation wherein we both cannot agree on a thing. Then maybe let's just arrive at a conclusion on which we can respectfully disagree with each other. You have something in your mind on which I don't agree, but also you are respectful of the fact that I might have a different perspective. So that also could be reached at. And these days, people argue over petty things and then they become enemies, even on things like if somebody is a Rohit Sharma fan or a Virat Kohli fan, and then they were fighting, or if somebody is affiliate of one political party versus other, and instead of having respectful disagreements, people become enemies and share hatred, which should not be the case. So, following these kind of steps can really help us meet the midway. And these I've shared extreme examples, but these kind of things happen in professional setup also. Generosity and nurturing warmth, making other feel smart, express appreciation and credit, builds ego safety and trust within teams and relationships. Now, this is one example which late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam also shared, that when ISRO rocket launch failed, uh, the director at that time, I think it was Dr. Satish Dhawan, he attended the press briefing, took the blame upon himself that this is what went wrong and I am sorry. And then subsequently, when the rocket launch actually happened and it was successful, then he sent out Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam for the press meet to meet the people, discuss, and take the credit. So make others feel smart, and your credibility uh, builds. I mean, when you present yourself in this way as a leader, if you are a safe person, if you feel that I, as a professional, as an individual, know what I am doing and know about my work, then you can go from this mindset and really have meaningful relationships and get the respect from others. Small favors and bondings. Now, this is something which I actively use. This is also called Ben Franklin effect. If you request somebody for a small favor, it strengthens bond and encourage cooperation among individuals. If you feel that you want to connect with somebody uh, and you don't share a bond already, but you want to have that, you can ask them for a small favor, which will not, I mean, for which they will not have to really do a lot, which is very easy for them, but at the same time meaningful for you. And that small favor can um, start help you build relations. Now, sometimes when students or CA freshers reach out to me asking that um, if I have any recommendation for a job or if I can refer them somewhere. So sometimes I'm not able to do that because I'm not aware of the openings. But uh, there are some people who approach me that this is the resume that I have written, and can I share a quick feedback on it, what they can do to improve? Or maybe if somebody asks them that in an internal audit, maybe if I can take out 15 minutes during the weekend and discuss a certain things with them. Now, over a period, what happens? If I have had one conversation with a person, it is highly likely that I might have a subsequent conversation with the same person. And because that subsequent conversation is happening, now we start building a bond. And later, at a later stage, I might be helpful for them. Or maybe if some opportunity comes in, then that person's name is the first one that will come to my mind. So you can always start with asking small favor, which is very easy for the other person to do, but then they feel that you you share a bond with them. Generosity in communication. We as individuals really, I mean, we do not go ahead and say thank you a lot to people. So we should do that more frequently and to more people. And if you can express gratitude multiple times a day, there's no harm in that. But it should be genuine. It should not be just for the sake of it. So if you are actually quoting specific instance or certain behavior, why you are doing that, then it makes it meaningful. Otherwise, it is fabricated, it is not authentic, so it will not achieve its purpose. And shift from status sharing to supportive language, like we've discussed, that what all are your challenges in sharing the data, how can I help you to be able to do that. And then there is collaboration and shared ownership. Because of that, nurture warmth behavior. uh, Warm gesture, meeting people with a smile, have open gesture, and don't sit with your arms crossed, have a gentle tone, have a slow pace. These all create psychological safety, make you approachable for the other person to reach out to you, have discussion with you. Non-verbal intelligence. So when you are delivering talk, if you might have seen people uh, communicating with open palms. So this is conveying honesty and openness during communication, enhancing trust and rapport. So this, if you see uh, presidents and prime ministers of different country visiting the other country, they always um, show open arms, and this is also related with the saying that if if you're hiding something behind your back, if there's a knife to stab somebody behind a back, so with open hands, I am communicating that I come to you with honesty and openness. Steady hands. So when speaking or when presenting, you can do, yeah. Hmm. So you can keep your hands here or slightly down and keep them steady rather than putting them here and there. So it indicate confidence and calmness, and it reduces nervousness. Sometimes we have no clue what to do with your hands, so you can join them this way, or one another, and just keep them near your belly button. If you have no clue what to do with your hands and they are shaking. Triangle eye contact. Okay, if you are addressing, let's say you are in a meeting room, it's a long table, and sometimes what people do is they just interact with one person, they look at that person and do the entire conversation, or sometimes they don't look at anybody at all. Now, to avoid these kind of situation, you can have triangle eye contact. So identify three people um, in the audience. So somebody on the left hand side, right hand side, and at the back, and also um, gaze your eyes from one person to another, and also from their shift your gaze from their eyes to mouth. So just or sometimes people feel conscious if they look at in somebody's eyes, so you can look at their forehead also. So now what that will do is, you are not essentially looking at anybody. If you have just had something in your mind you want to deliver, you are not looking at everyone, but you people feel that you are looking at them. Have grounded feet that provide stability and presence, especially when you are sitting in a chair, helps you maintain composure in a social setting. Have your shoulders relaxed, um, so that reduce tension, convey ease and approachability to other. Have a controlled breathing. Sometime, uh, just when arguments get heated, people say you should have some water. And if you feel that you have a uh, breathing problem and you're breathing too fast, so have that, take in a long breath. I mean, take a deep breath, and then it will support your emotional regulation and maintain focus in the conversation. And it is always advisable, if you are thinking that conversation is not going in the right direction and it is heading towards a heated argument, you can always say, maybe can we take a 2 minutes break and reconnect? Or you can just take a pause, have some water, and then start communicating again. So all these are great for presentation. I mean, these tips. So you can implement any of these if you want to go into public speaking, or even if your work includes discussion with multiple stakeholders all within the same room. empathy and lens shifting. So lens shifting is essentially what we talked about. Not just understanding why I felt what I have felt, also understanding why the other person might have said this and what could be the reason, giving that benefit of doubt. Having actively listening to the other person rather than preparing for a rebuttal that let him complete, or even in between I'll just throw in what I have to say. Focus on hearing the words spoken and understand the intended meaning to foster deeper empathy, not just what they said, or try and understand why they have said that, what they meant by that. Emotional awareness, notice the feeling behind words and what remains unsaid to grasp the full context. Lens shifting question, use reflective question to understand constraints, missing element and impact on processes. Maybe why do you feel this way? Is there anything that I can correct so that you feel the other way? So these kind of lens shifting or reflective questions you can ask yourself and to the other person also. Reading emotional temperature and empathy actions. There are recognized key emotional state which include overwhelm, irritation, withdrawal, defensiveness, and readiness to respond effectively. Uh, Empathy action would be empathy involves paraphrasing, which we've discussed. Just reiterate that this is what if I've understood. So if somebody has said something with a lot of emotions, maybe then they'll say, no, no, this is not what I've meant. Validating effort, that yes, I acknowledge the effort that you've spent in explaining to what you've told me, and I recognize that, and I'm paraphrasing just to make sure I've understood things correctly. Acknowledging emotions, identifying the constraints that we have, and mirroring tone to connect sincerely. Mirroring is also a very nice technique to connect with people. It's a good communication technique. So sometimes what you'll notice, if you're genuinely interested in somebody and how they are sitting, what their posture is, how they speak, their body language, what they do, how they do, you start mirroring them. Sometimes some people start doing that subconsciously. I do that sometimes, so it instantly builds rapport, and now you both are in the same zone. But you can consciously also do that if you feel that you really want to have a good conversation with somebody and don't know them. You can start mirroring them. I'm not saying mimic them, but mirror certain states. Um, or traits of theirs, how what is their hand gesture, how they speak, what is their tone, and some of these things you start mirroring instantly. Trustworthiness trustworthiness presence and calm in the storm. So foundation of trustworthiness is built on predictability. If you've done this once, you will always do it same in different scenarios or different situations. You have clarity, you're consistent, you're composed. You are not rattled if somebody has uttered something, and you are doing structured communication. And if you are calm in the storm, you've slowed down, you've softened your tone, you're anchoring your energy. It helps you manage tense situations very effectively. And this I have personally felt that if I am speaking in this tone in which I am speaking right now, there are very little chances of going into an argument, because then there's very little room for the other person to take it otherwise and be more aggressive. Uh, so clear commitment. If you want to show that you are present in a conversation or in a dialogue, shift from uncertain language to clear, specific delivery. It promises. Uh, it enhances trust and reliability. Having structured communication, moving from rambling to structured communication, involve starting point, reasoning, impact, and asking effectively. Now, if you want to state anything, the very simple, there are a few frameworks which you can look up also. One is five W's and one H. So, what we are doing, why we are doing, when we are doing, right? Where we are doing, by whom it is getting done. So five whys and one H is how. So if you want to deliberate something, you can use that framework. If you want to state something, you can state that, you can firstly tell what you are going to communicate, then say that, and then summarize what you have said. So this framework you can use. Then there's another framework in which you would tell that what is the problem, or what is your understanding of your problem, of the problem, what you are proposing and why you are proposing, and then you open the floor for feedback and inputs. So you can use a lot of these techniques to have clear communication. Okay, I think this we've already covered, but I'll briefly uh, go through this agreement stacking and repo building. If you want to establish a repo, establishing connections early help reduce ego activation and foster mutual understanding. If you feel that, uh, let's say you are going to have a presentation to 10 people and there are three people who matters the most, if you can beforehand give them a heads up that this is what you are going to convey, and if you want, maybe you can take their input so that you have their buy-in before the discussion, and then they will not block you. Validating the effort, recognizing each other effort, encourage cooperation. You can always say good things if somebody has done something right. You can quote certain instances, highlight alignment. You share that, okay, this is our common goal or objective on which we both align. These are the out of 5 points, these are the 3 points on which we align. These are the 2 point of discussion which we need to resolve. So now with all this context, it is you've built a repo and it is easier to resolve conflict and co-create conclusion. So collaborative problem solving lead to mutually acceptable conclusion, not something which is being pushed by you or somebody else. Now, reiterating certain behaviors which will make you a trust magnet, smile and warmth. Um, a smile conveys warmth and create positive interpersonal connection. Small favors and generosity. Doing small favor demonstrate generosity and foster goodwill. Paraphrasing and empathy, we've spoken about it. Intent clarification, being vulnerable, transparently share your reason, being authentic, and having precise commitment and trustworthiness, um, which which is basically establishing yourself as trustworthy. So for just to reiterate, what would be the key top behavior for you, coming from trust magnet framework perspective? Clarify and paraphrase. Clarify your intent, why you are saying what you are saying or why you are doing what you are doing. Paraphrase helps to ensure that there is clear understanding, there is reduced miscommunication. Have positive engagement, smiling and appreciating others foster a positive relationship. It creates a collaborative environment. Effective conflict handling, slowing the pace in conflict, sharing reasoning, why you are saying or why you're doing what you're doing. It de-escalate tension and build trust, building agreement and commitment, read emotional temperature, build agreement, structure your communication, give precise commitment to establish yourself as a professional, your repo as a professional, which will ensure cooperation and accountability. Now, to conclude, um, strong communication skills help us as chartered accountants to build trust, to foster positive client relationships, conflict management, managing conflicts effectively. It is essential to maintain professional integrity and also client satisfaction. And authentic leadership. Leading with authenticity, it will strengthen your credibility and it will inspire confidence amongst both the clients as well as colleagues. Now, with that, I will open the floor for questions, if any.
So we will wait for 2-3 minutes
Sure,
before closing for the questions to come in.
sure.
There's one question from the participants, sir.
Hmm.
How does one draw a line between healthy openness and over disclosure in a professional setting?
Healthy openness versus over disclosure. Okay. Now, as a professional, I mean, when we say we are being open, we are, I mean, firstly, understand your intent of why you are communicating what you are communicating. If you if you are stopping yourself to communicate something because you don't want to be transparent or you want to hide something, then that is you not being open. But if something you are professionally not expected to disclose, so we need to um, guide ourselves by the intent and our professional judgment, that whether our professional standards allow us to disclose something or not, and then what is our intent behind that. If those two things are clear, then it is very easy to decide whether we want to disclose something or not.
Uh, so this was the only question from the participants end. Uh, huh. The next question is would appreciate if you can provide the key points while negotiating large fee amount with the client. For example, will execution fee,
Okay.
will execution.
Okay. So typically, I mean, there are two models which people use to quote fee. One is cost plus model. So if you say that because I will deploy these many resources, or it's a 15-day job, 20-day job, then you are commoditizing yourself, you're commoditizing your time. And there are certain activities which are done on this model. Let's say if for physical verification, if somebody has reached out, it is a commoditized job because somebody needs to count and there is only as much value that could be added. So it would be on cost plus model, and you can always say that we will deliver on timely basis. But if something is related to your professional skills, then you should always communicate the value that you are deriving out of it. You can always share instances of your past clients, or you can demonstrate or establish yourself as a professional um, or competent person in that domain. Sometimes people have a history of that. If you don't have a history of demonstrated competence in a particular area, then you need to start now and start putting things on certain platforms. It could be, you could be a instructor, or you could contribute to some technical material with ICI, or you can start putting content on YouTube or on LinkedIn. So demonstrate or establish yourself as a professional or an expert in that domain, and then don't hesitate to quote the fees. So there could be certain rejections in initial phase, but then you will learn. And most of the time the hesitation is internal. We feel that we are not worth it, and hence we quote a lower fees. So just go ahead and quote that fee. If the client is capable of giving you that, you will get that fees. So major barrier is internal. So once you are clear that you are an experienced competent professional in that domain, you should not hesitate in quoting the fees which you believe you deserve.
Thank you, sir. The next question is what are the communication barriers that one needs to encounter during an interaction with a billionaire client who is illiterate?
Billionaire client who is illiterate. Okay, so in the statement itself, there are multiple communication barriers. You yourself has your I mean, the person who has asked this question has preconceived notions about the client. That first, the person is a billionaire, so might be coming with a certain ego. Second, he's illiterate, he or she is illiterate, so might not be able to understand what I'm saying or understand the value. But what we should strive is, typically our focus is on selling what we have rather than understanding what the other person needs. And typically people who are very busy and have reached to this kind of level, uh, they are typically interested in conversation from the sense that what is in it for me, इसमें मेरे लिए क्या है, what will I gain out of this conversation or this transaction. So focus or think from that perspective, that what value can I add or what do I have to offer to you, and then communicate just that. Keep it very concise and focus on just that. Maybe we might feel that something is really important from our perspective and might be a total waste of time from their perspective. So just try and understand from their perspective what matters to them and structure our communication from that perspective or from that thought. And uh, do not have these preconceived notions that a billionaire is a person who does XYZ things, and if they are illiterate, then they might not be able to understand certain things. So, firstly, get rid of those preconceived notions and then structure uh, your conversation in the way on how you can contribute or help them.
Thank you so much, sir. I think this was the end of the questions from the participants end. So we can now close.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Charmi ma'am. I'll hand it over to you. That's what I had to contribute or deliberate in today's session, but really happy and really glad that I got this opportunity to present.
Same here, sir. So it has been an honor and part to become a part of this wonderful webcast on Communication and Relationship Skill Enrichment Committee ICAI. And on behalf of Professional Skill Enrichment Committee and ICI, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, C. Gaurav Goyal, and his enlightening session. A wild round of applause and thanks to the organizer, Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, our today's speaker, C.A. Gaurav Goyal, and all other stakeholders who has made this webcast a memorable one. Finally, we would like to thank all of you present here and helping us make this webcast a grand success. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can close the session.